Our daily Bible reading for May 23rd. Our reading today comes from the Gospel of John, chapter 11. We'll be reading verses 1 through 37. Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent to him, saying, Lord, he whom you love is ill. But when Jesus heard it, he said, This illness does not lead to death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to the disciples, Let us go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, and are you going there again? Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. After saying these things, he said to them, Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awaken him. The disciples said to him, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will recover. Now Jesus had spoken of his death, but they thought he meant taking rest and sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus has died. And for your sake I am glad that I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. So Thomas, called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, Let us also go, that we may die with him. Now when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, but Mary remained seated in the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet he shall live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. When she had said this, she went and called her sister Mary, saying in private, The teacher is here and is calling for you. When she heard it, she rose quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary rise quickly and go out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Now when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit and greatly troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. So the Jews said, See how he loved him. But some of them said, Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man also have kept this man from dying? And our thoughts for today. Someone once said, Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. For Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, their friendship with Jesus would have eternal benefits. We often think of Jesus' time on earth as all business, and for sure he was about the Father's business. But we also see a tender side of Jesus at times. We don't know how exactly the relationship with these three began, but we do know theirs was a very special one. On several occasions we find Mary and Martha interacting with Jesus. Martha is the lesser known, though thought to be the oldest because she was the hostess in Luke chapter 10. We find in verse 38 there, Now it came to pass as they went that he entered into a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha received him into her house. Mary is mentioned most in the gospel accounts. Her devotion to Jesus is unprecedented. Jesus commends her for her interest in eternal and spiritual affairs. We find in Luke chapter 10, verses 41 and 42, "And Jesus answered and said unto her, Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled about many things, but one thing is needful, and Mary hath chosen that good part, which shall not be taken away from her." Mary is well known also for following Jesus and is noted for having anointed Jesus' feet with very costly perfume. We can deduce by the evidence given in the Gospels that at the very least this family lived a comfortable life and perhaps were very well off financially. It is Lazarus who catches our eye here in this account of his death. The delay of Jesus in coming to his aid is puzzling at first, yet in hearing the reason for his delay, we see more clearly what prompted the Savior's actions. In this account, we have one of the only two recorded times that Jesus wept, the other being the tears shed over Jerusalem in Luke 19:41. It is evident the love Jesus felt for this family. He knew the sting that the loss of a loved one can cause. For those whose loved ones have lost, we can be assured that the Savior indeed knows the loss we feel. Hebrews 4:15 tells us, "For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses." And a question for the day. Is it difficult for you to imagine Jesus having friends? And a thought to meditate on this day. It is the times when we are brokenhearted that tries and tests our hearts to trust in an all-loving and all-compassionate, merciful God. Those are our thoughts for today, May 23rd.